Expressed on this show are solely those of the host and guest and are not necessarily supported by WPSC 88.7 FM, station management, or the station owner, William Patterson University. Anyone wanting to offer differing opinions may do so by calling the show at 973-720-2738. Abusive callers will be rejected. Now here's your program on WP 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio.
Good morning. Good morning to you. And yes, believe it or not, it is the Saturday before Christmas. And if you can hear my voice, you're listening to The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. We come to you live each Saturday morning in the 6 o'clock a.m. hour. And we bring you what's going on in the literary world. And believe it or not, another week has gone by. It seems like I was just sitting behind this microphone, and it's time to do it all again. And if you've been listening any amount of time, you know that we have a ritual and routine on Saturday mornings where I'm going to share with you the weather. I'm going to read two passages out of two different books. They're daily devotionals for today, December the 20th. I'm going to introduce my guest, share some information with you, and our interview will be underway in that order. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share with you what's going on weather-wise in the Wayne, New Jersey area. Right now, it is 29.3 degrees, and it says it feels like 29. So I guess we're looking at 29 degrees. Expected to be sunny to partly cloudy, a high of 36. So we're not going to move too much more beyond that 29. Partly cloudy tonight, low of 28. And then tomorrow, Sunday, partly cloudy skies, high near 40, dropping to a low of 29. It's going to be mostly clear on Sunday night. And then on Monday, expected to be partly cloudy skies in the morning. That will give way to cloudy skies during the afternoon, high of 39, moving to a low of 37. And then as we move on into Tuesday, rain showers early with overcast skies later in the day, a high of 44, a low of 43. Not going to move much on Tuesday. Tuesday night showers early, becoming a steady light rain, as I just said, low of 43. And then on Wednesday, Christmas Eve, thunderstorms likely, high of 56 with a low of 40. That's on Christmas Eve, expected on Christmas Eve evening or the night. A steady rain in the evening, showers continuing late, low around 40 degrees. That's the forecast for the next few days, brought to you right here from the WP 88.7 FM Weather Center. Well, you know I read from two books. One is called What Can Happen When We Pray. The other is called Until Today. And we are going to do just that right now. So today, December the 20th, from the book What Can Happen When We Pray, it says, what's in a name? Today's prayer: as we call upon your name, O Lord, help us in the naming we employ with one another to move the peoples of the planet closer to the transformation you desire for all the world. Then may we hold you and one another as holy as we dare to acknowledge your name as Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Amen. Today's reflection: every child is a gift to the world, a gift to the child's loved ones, a gift to the cosmos. This child, alluded to in the Christian use of a Hebrew prophecy, is the gift of God. God's Son became incarnate for us and for all the world. So that's for December the 20th. from the book What Can Happen When We Pray. And then Iyanla Van Zant says in her book Until Today for December the 20th, she says, I will know peace when I accept that things are the way things need to be. Stop trying to be perfect. Stop it right now. Stop trying to fix yourself, change yourself, perfect yourself. Stop trying to do everything just so. Stop trying to improve every little thing so that everything about you will be perfect. Stop trying to impress people with just how perfect you are. Stop making up stories about how perfect your life is. Stop looking for little imperfections so that you can perfect them. Stop making excuses for the things you think are imperfect. The quest for perfection is a waste of time and energy. It is a quest that closes your mind and your heart to the beauty that is all around you. You can be so preoccupied perfecting the cracks in you that you fail to realize that light comes through the cracks. Remember the words of the famous author Ernest Hemingway, who said, "Not everything that appears to be broken needs to be fixed." In fact, some of us are strong at the broken places. In other words, everything need not be perfect in order to be divine. This includes you. Until today, you may have held perfection as the standard that you needed to live up to or achieve. Just for today, accept that you are perfect just as you are. Embrace the cracks in your life and breaks in your heart as places into which divine light can shine. Today I am devoted to releasing the quest to be any more perfect than I already am. All right, that is from the book Until Today. I read from those two books to kick off the show and to provide a positive flow for the rest of the morning. And that technique has not failed me yet. And I do know the mornings that I don't get a chance to do it, if I'm rushing everything and I don't get a chance to do that, things seem to go awry. But so far, everything is in place, doing what it's supposed to do. My guest is on the line. She's there waiting in the wings. So I'm going to introduce her right now. My guest is Dawn Michelle Hardy, and she is a book publicist, founder of Dream Relations, public relations, and literary consulting agency. Dawn Michelle Hardy is an award-winning publicist who founded Dream Relations, PR and literary consulting in 2004 after running the day-to-day operations for New York Times best-selling author Teri Woods with Teri Woods Publishing. She was awarded the 2010 Book Publicist of the Year honor by the African Americans on the Move Book Club, the AAMBC. Dawn Michelle has a strong reputation in the book publishing industry for taking novelists and self-published authors out of the box and beyond the book pages. The results are powerful, seamless, consistent messaging that is conveyed across all platforms of media, print, radio, online, television, and new technologies. Some of her author clients include national best-selling romance and contemporary author Niobia Bryant, Phyllis Wheatley Award winner Sadeqa Johnson. Oh, I know Sadeqa, Love in a Carry-On Handbag, or Love in a Carry-On Bag, along with White House Champion of Change and award-winning author Tracey Syphax. Oh, I know Tracey as well, From the Block to the Boardroom. All right, we have a lot of commonalities, Dawn. Her agency also represents the producer Kaven Brown and director Mills Miller for the Behind the Books documentary on urban fiction. In addition to books, she works with sports and business, nonprofits, and faith-based brands. Dawn Michelle has handled publicity for A Night of Hope for Heidi in Times Square with Joel Osteen and Hezekiah Walker, Children's Sports and Fitness Expo presented by Body Sculpt of New York, and certified personal trainer to Bill and Hillary Clinton, Ralph Henning. Dawn Michelle Hardy consistently does interviews and contributes articles on publishing trends and book publicity. Welcome to the Reading Circle microphone, Dawn Michelle Hardy. Good morning, Dawn. How are you?
Hi, Mark. Good morning to you.
I know this is early for you. Am I correct?
Yeah. You know what? It's not early to get up. It's early to talk to people.
Yes. That's why I got a kick out of your email. So this is my earliest interview ever.
Yeah, it is. But I'm going to enjoy it. We're going to enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have some fun.
My dog is still sleeping. I'm ready to go.
We're ready to go. All right. Yeah, I have my coffee right next to me as well. I have like every morning, each morning I have my routine. And Saturday mornings, because this is the only morning I do the show, I have a routine as well. So I get up around 4:30ish, somewhere around there, get ready to go, and then stop on my way to Dunkin' Donuts and grab my bagel and coffee on the way in. So the only time these folks see me in this one particular Dunkin' Donuts is on Saturday mornings.
Oh, my gosh.
I grab my coffee and I come in and I wait for the police to escort me in. And then once I get in and get everything set up, we're kind of ready to go. But that's kind of like my routine early on Saturday mornings. So
yeah, no, it's nice to have a routine. It's nice.
Yeah, it works because during the week I have a whole nother routine for my regular day job, and then for Saturdays that's kind of like my routine. So it's like once I do that, I can almost do it in my sleep or either eyes closed because I've been doing it so long. Got you. But yeah, this has been the time slot for a little while now, and I've gotten accustomed to it. And interestingly enough, as I was reading your bio, there's a couple of people in there. I know Tracey and we haven't hooked up to actually have them on the air yet, but I know Sadeqa has been on. Matter of fact, Sadeqa, at that same time we did the show, about a week or so later, or either that same day, she had a book signing, and I went down to that, and we actually had a chance to meet.
Oh, nice. Yes, Loving to Carry On Bad is an amazing book. When we were doing the PR for that book, I basically described it as a novel fusion of Love Jones and Mo Better Blues.
That's correct, because I've read the book, and that's a good description of it.
Yeah, because you think people, when people read books, before they even read the book, if you give them something in pop culture that they've already seen or something that they know really well already, it kind of puts them in the mind frame of what they can expect when they dig into the book. So for me, that was basically contemporary African-American love. And, when you think Mo Better Blues, you think that there's a trumpet player, which there was in her book. And then Love Jones, at a point in time, they were going in different cities.
That's correct.
Still trying to see if they would keep the relationship working.
That's
and her
correct.
book is about long-distance relationships. So as a publicist, I was like, I have just the two things they can compare your book to.
This is true, and that's because I've read that book from cover to cover, and I always tell my guests, a lot of times I don't read the book from cover and cover. I don't get a chance to read until after the interview. Before
I'm so glad you read it.
Yeah, before the interview, a lot of times I will skim it or I'll, get my questions together. But I don't get a chance to read it from cover and cover until after the interview. But that one I have read, and you're absolutely right. It was a fascinating story. It was a fun story to read. It really was. And you're right. It was about the long-distance relationships, he being a musician. But it was a good book. It really was. And Sadeqa was a lot of fun. I
mean, actually, if I could take 2 seconds to just brag about her.
By all means, please do.
Book, she published that book with 12th Street Press, publishing company that her and her husband started in 2012. Right. And now here it is in 2014, based off of the quality of her writing and her storytelling, winning the Phyllis Wheatley Award along with 2 other national awards. She now has received a 2-book deal with St. Martin's Press for her next 2 books.
All right.
So she is officially no longer going to be a self-published author anymore.
Good for her. Well, I mean, I'm going to have her back on the show then. I'll have to get her scheduled in 2015 to come back on.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a labor of love between the publicity, the amazing writing and editing that was done, and attractive cover. That's what the work is that we do for self-published authors. You have to really put the work in, and if you're a good writer, eventually the people in corporate will find out about you.
This is true. Yeah. This is true, and you're absolutely right. And the cover was very good on there, very colorful. And I think
Mary Brown designed the cover. Yeah, very beautiful.
Yes, it was. Well, let me see. I need to share some information with the listening audience, and I'm going to do that. And listening audience, you know the drill. You are to get on all of your social media sites, and you are to let someone know that Dawn Michelle Hardy is on the air with me. So you get on your LinkedIn, you get on your Pinterest, your Twitter, your Facebook. I'm trying to think about the rest of them, but you know the list. Get on all of your social media sites and let someone know that Dawn is on the air with me right now on gobrave.org and locally here on WP 88.7 FM. I am not taking a break, so therefore I'm just sharing some information with you. I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you. So I'm going to share this with you, and then we're going to continue on with our interview.
I started going cold turkey. Well, at least when I'm in the car.
I know I shouldn't do it, but it's so hard to stop. That's why I hide it from myself, so I won't be tempted.
I used to do it all the time. I stopped by locking it in my glove compartment.
My friend used to do it way too much. Now I turn it off when we're in the car.
My solution is simple. I just don't do it.
There are lots of ways to stop yourself and others from texting and driving. How will you stop? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Once upon a time, old Scrooge sat down before the fire.
Ah, humbug.
With great astonishment, Marley's ghost came through the heavy door and passed into the room.
Oh. What do you want with me?
You will be haunted by 3 spirits. I'd rather not.
To read A Christmas Carol and other books online, go to www.read.gov. Explore new worlds. Read. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley on Brave New Radio.
This is true. You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley right here on GoBrave.org. Brave New Radio, WP 88.7 FM. And my guest this morning is Dawn Michelle Hardy. And we were talking right before we went on the air about Dawn's role in the whole literary process. And for those of you in the listening audience, you know, most of the time I interview the actual author, or as we call it kind of in the business, the talent. And many times I will ask the question, particularly those who are doing both sides of the business. They're doing the writing piece as well as the business end of the piece where they're trying to do the marketing and the selling. However, some authors will have the agency or an agency like the one Dawn created where they actually have the ability to work with someone that will go out and do the business side for them. And that's what Dawn does. And I was sharing with her that this would be an interesting aspect for the listening audience to learn of. So, Dawn, let's talk a little bit about I see you founded the company back in 2004 after working with Teri Woods. How did you and Teri Woods, because I've been trying to get her on the show forever. I mean, I read her, what was it, True to the Game and Be More Careful and all them out when they came out. And I've been trying to get her on here forever. I haven't gotten here, so maybe you could be a link if you're still in touch with her. But in any event, how did that whole thing happen with you and Teri coming together?
Well, a friend of mine had actually applied to work with Teri when she moved her offices to the city. And ironically, when Teri finally got a chance to call that friend back, she had already taken a job at CBS, and I had just left the job. So my friend called me and said, oh, you know, there's an author, and she's looking for someone to help her run her business. I was like, okay, you know, I'll check it out. I had heard about the book. Teri and I, you know, had a 45-minute conversation on a Sunday, and I started on a Monday, and we worked together for 2 years after that. So in working with her, I pretty much did everything except write the actual books. So I gave my feedback and art direction on the book covers, setting up orders with Borders. She actually got her own account set up with Borders while I was working there, talked with people to do book-to-film deals, the publicity for authors, as well as helping her with her schedule. So I pretty much did a little bit of everything, and I knew at that time there were so many other urban fiction authors that were either getting started or were comparing themselves to Teri in some type of way and wanted to be able to go where she had gone as far as the number of sales and just how pop culture-wise her book became so popular. So when I transitioned from working with her and started the agency, I basically just reached out to the authors, the bookstores, the distributors, the street vendors, everybody that I had met along the way, and let them know that now I could offer my services you know, to a wider audience, because at the time I was like, I can't offer my services to other urban fiction authors because they were seen as competition. And to me, integrity-wise, I just felt that was a conflict of interest. But once I started my agency, my audience pretty much was already waiting for me.
So were you, first off, in terms of Teri, yes, Teri kicked back off that urban fiction genre. She really did.
Yeah, because before that, it was just a soldier.
Right.
And literally, I think there's about, I don't know, maybe a 5 to 7 year gap between The Coldest Winter Ever and True to the Game.
That's correct. Yeah. And True to the Game came out. I read that as soon as it came out. And I could tell by the writing style on that, I mean, it has its like rough soft parts and it has the soft parts, and it was just straight up reality.
Yeah, and the thing is, that story was all about love.
Right.
You know, boy and girl.
Right.
It just so happens that what the boy did for a living,
right,
was illegal, but it was urban hood love.
Correct.
So I think that's why a lot of readers, especially women, were so engaged, because even through them fighting in the streets and territory and so forth, in the midst of all of that was Quadir and Gina.
Right.
And they were in love with one another.
That's correct. And it was
when love is at the center,
right,
it's always going to be a good read.
This is true. And it was at that point where it's because, I'm going to say this on the air because it's that old adage or that old cliche or that old stereotype was that, if you wanted to hide anything from African Americans, or as they say from black folks at that time, it was put it in a book. What pretty much folks was trying to say is we don't read, and that's just not true. But
right, yeah.
Where I'm going with this is, if nothing else, our readership kicked up after True to the Game. And from
absolutely.
that, it was a proliferation, as you said, of other now urban fiction writers, because I saw a boom after that, because I was doing the show at the time. Matter of fact, I had just started the show in the early 2000s, like 2001. And Teri's book came out somewhere around there a couple years later. And after that, I saw the trend. I saw a boom in urban fiction.
Definitely. Even with that, I think it was either Publishers Weekly or the New York Times. I'm actually looking it up now. Ran an article that basically was saying at a particular time, so maybe I guess between 2004 and 2008, African-American books, just the sales and the popularity of African-American books written by African-American authors, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, that industry was being anchored by urban fiction authors, because that was the big money maker. So, it has slowed down, and people aren't necessarily going out and buying the Terry McMillans of the world, but they were buying the Shannon Holmes and the Teri Woods and the Sister Soldiers books. So just like hip-hop music, went from a ripple in the pond and became a big splash, urban fiction did the same, and literally that was the bulk of African-American books that were being purchased, like nationwide, were urban fiction books during that time.
That's correct. I saw the trend, because I saw it even in my guests I were getting that I was attracting, as well as discussions I was having, and the books that I saw being launched, being released. So I saw this. So in terms of you now coming into that line of work, were you doing that before your friend called you about Teri, or how did you get into this whole publicity work, and particularly with, literary?
Oh, my gosh. I have to say that it's divine direction, because, I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, which is a fashion college in Midtown Manhattan, and, I interned at Essence Magazine and at Nautica on the fashion side of things. So this just at the time my girlfriend called me and I left the job, it was really just about assisting someone in running their business. So whatever I was able to do, like I was book smart, Teri was street smart, and the combination of the two of us working together, we made some great things happen. But literally it was just me assisting her. So you think about everything that you learn in school,
right?
Administrative-wise, for the exception of things that she had a system already in place. It's just basically using my knowledge and college degree to just basically help her run her business. Like I said, talking to authors, reviewing contracts, coming up with creative ideas. I had no PR experience prior, but I knew enough about PR, and I had colleagues that when the opportunity came, I said, you know what, I have an idea on how to promote this particular author's book. And his book was kind of like a crime, like a James Patterson style book. So I basically compared him to James Patterson, but the Delaware version. And his book was a horror story. So the first photo shoot he did was in the graveyard of his local town, and the local media in his town ate it up. So local office in Delaware gets a book deal with the New York publisher. Granted, it was a small press, but still, the wording was perfect for a small town in Delaware. And it got him like 5 media placements, because they loved the fact that he had a horror book coming out, and his photo image was him standing in the graveyard.
That is a fascinating story in terms of how you began, because it wasn't what you intentionally set out to do, but because you were helping out somebody it blossomed. And I'm saying it's fascinating to me, and I can connect with it because this is the same way I got this radio show. I actually stumbled upon, or as you say, divine intervention, because I was actually the campaign manager for a friend of mine who was running for school board at the time. And this was one of our campaign stops. And I happened to be out in the lobby. They had a sign up that said, "Do you want a radio show?" So I was just sitting there waiting for my friend to come out of the booth from the interview, and I was out there playing around in the lobby, yelling out, "Yeah, I want a radio show! Because I was responding to the sign that was on the bulletin board. Mm-hmm. So I'm out there just going, "Yeah, I want a radio show! Yeah, I want a radio show!" And like a week or two later, I run into this gentleman at my daughter's school. And he says, "Why didn't you call me?" And I said, "What? First off, who are you and why would I be calling you?" So he says, "I'm the station manager at the studio you were in a couple of weeks ago, and you said you wanted a radio show, and I put one together for you." He said, because at the time I was a teacher. Now I'm a principal, but at the time I was a teacher. He said, "I had been looking for someone to host a show on books, and I thought you'd be perfect for it."
Oh, wow.
And the rest, as they say, is history. And I've been here 13 years now from that.
Really? Oh my goodness. Okay, and I've been running my agency for 10 years, and if you add those 2 years that I was with Teri, I've been in book publishing for 12 years and had no previous experience prior to that.
Well,
and didn't even necessarily have a desire to even work in book publishing. And now 9 out of 10 of my clients are authors. Go figure.
Well, that was my next question to you in terms of like the connection between reading, because this show really was designed with the intent of increasing folks' desire to read, if you will. So the question I would have was like, were you a reader, or as a child, or did you write, or was English or literature your thing? Like,
oh my gosh, it totally wasn't. Honestly, I'm telling you, I was that girl that was like, "I'm going to be a model. I'm going to be a model." And my mother was like, "Well, you're only 5'2", so what else you got?" And I was like, "Okay, well, if I'm not going to be a model, I'm going to be the person who makes the clothes for the model." And then when I went to FIT, in order to get into the fashion design department, you had to know how to sew. And I was like, "Oh, I know how to sketch, but I don't know how to sew." Okay, on to the next thing. I'm going to be the person who shops for the clothes and puts them on the model and the celebrities and things of that nature. So working in book publishing never even entered my mind. You know, I read according to class mandates, but it just wasn't, this whole industry of publishing. I didn't write poems when I was younger. You know, I read Charlotte's Web, but I didn't read, like, the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. No. Books just wasn't my thing. I was more of a hands-on person. So I was in the sports as a child, and I was in the fashion as a child. So honestly, coming into book publishing, like I said, it really has to be divine direction.
Right.
What I do like about this particular industry, unlike if you do entertainment or fashion, if I had settled on any of those other particular industries, there's a book on every subject under the sun.
That's correct.
So it allows me to work on fashion books, or work on sports books, or work with entertainers on books. So I can work with someone who is a scientist at NASA, or someone who is a stay-at-home mom who's a clairvoyant, or an award-winning journalist who writes for the Washington Post who's writing about Allen Iverson. I can work with all of those folks because I work in book publishing.
That's correct. You are. So people ask me, well, what genres do you cover? And I usually say I cover everything from Jesus to erotica. And it's like on any given Saturday, it could go any way. I mean, I've had like hardcore erotica authors on here. I've had Christian authors. I've had, like you said, any subject, there is a book on it. There really is. And they're authors, and authors really do look or seek to get the word out about their works, because in many instances, I mean, we laugh about being up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I've had many guests from California, and the show is not pre-recorded, so they're up to do an interview at 3 o'clock in the morning their time.
Yes.
But they do what they need to do to get the word out about their work. So I can totally relate to what you're talking about in terms of it, because that's what's really kept the show on as long as it has, because in the initial years, I didn't have guests. I would choose a book and read from it for the hour or whatever. I would do the reading myself and narrate it.
Oh, my gosh, wow.
And then over the years, especially when social media exploded, that's where I started gaining all of my guests, was through social media. But that's when I started having the authors, and there is never a shortage of authors.
Never.
And something to talk
Especially
about.
with, the industry definitely moving in the direction where more people are self-publishing. So, 4 years ago, I actually, in addition to running my PR agency, I became a literary agent with Serendipity Literary Agency.
Right.
And the reason, and that's run by Regina Books, the reason why I wanted to add being a literary agent to my resume is that along the way, because people are choosing to self-publish, they're only choosing to self-publish because either they've gotten rejections from agents or they've gotten rejections from publishing companies. And then at that point in time, they just say, I'll do it myself. Or they say, I'll do it myself because I don't even want to get the rejection.
That's correct.
But along the way, you will find a diamond in the rough. So, for example, someone like Sadeqa, her writing was really, really good, and the presentation of her book was amazing. And we were able to get really great publicity for her. She was featured in Juicy Magazine, a national publication. She was interviewed for Ebony.com. So she had a lot going for her where when an agent says, this is, I think I can sell this. And then she winds up getting a deal. So for me as a publicist, I'm helping authors get publicity and build an audience for themselves. And if I come upon somebody who really has something, especially in the quality of their writing, maybe after a year working with us, we'll have enough to anchor them, and they may actually be able to get a book deal.
Well,
So,
you hit on a couple
now
of things.
Now I'm in that position to help authors get book deals as well.
You hit on something whenever you were talking. I want to talk a little bit more when we come back from sharing this information with the audience. And that was this whole notion of self-publishing, because you are right in terms of 25, 30, 40, 50 years ago, that was not an option.
Yeah.
And because of technology now, you really can be an independent artist, an independent author. You can do your own thing. And the thing I always caution any of my authors I've had on the air, particularly who are self-published, is make sure that you have edited it, because one of the things people really don't want to do is to be reading a bunch of grammatical errors or spelling errors.
Yes.
And I know for me, I'm like a speed reader. I speed read. So, I've learned it. I've gone through the courses with it. I do it. I know how to do it. So when I get to a book that's grammatically incorrect or a bunch of spelling errors, those are like potholes for me.
Yeah.
I'm zipping along in the book, and I'll come across either a spelling error, either a grammatical error, and it stops me. It slows me down. So I always
it really does.
Make sure your work is quality work when you self-publish. So I'm going to share some information with our listening audience, and then when we come back, we're going to continue on with our interview. If you've just joined us, and I hope you've been with us since 6, because Dawn is lively, up and at 'em. She said this is her earliest interview she's ever had, but you would not know it listening to her. It sounds like she is full of energy over there. But my guest is Dawn Michelle Hardy. She is actually a literary agent as well as a PR specialist. She has her own agency, and she actually does the public relations for many authors on the, or shall I say, our literary folks on the business side of it. And that's what I want to talk about as we get into the last half hour or so of the interview, is that piece of it. So I'm going to share this information, and then we're going to continue talking about that. But again, get on your social media sites and let everyone you know, let them know that Dawn is on the air with me right now. There may be an aspiring author out there who could use Dawn's services. There may be some tips that she will share over the next half hour or so that you can use. So let somebody know that Dawn Michelle Hardy is on the air with me right now on the Reading Circle.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't seen your lap in months. And even more stuff. But still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Yeah, salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, throw a ball Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday, let's move Monday, swap us next Sunday.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov. A message from USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Stan Myers, and I'm here at FM 88.7. I do a jazz show called Just a Mood. And if you like the music, anything from Louis to Lester Bowie, I'm your man. That's Sunday afternoons, 3 to 6. Looking to hear from you, okay?
You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley on Brave New Radio.
That's right, folks. You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley. We kick off live on Saturday mornings at 6 o'clock a.m. And sometimes we have a Reading Circle doubleheader like we do this morning. And even every now and again, we'll have a Reading Circle tripleheader. And when we don't have that happen, as you know, at the 7 o'clock hour, we usually put on the good news and song, which is the gospel music. So there's always something exciting here on WP 88.7 FM and GoBrave.org. My guest this morning is Dawn Michelle Hardy. And
hi.
Yes, indeed. And she is sharing with us what she does. And Dawn, as I said earlier, many times I'll have the author on the air and I'll ask them the question in terms of, well, do you have to do everything, or are you allowed to just kind of be the talent and you have somebody else do the business in for you? And the responsive, it varies. For some, they say, oh, no, I'm just the talent. I have an agency that does that for me. For some, they say, no, I have to do the whole thing, but I hate the business side. Then there are others that say, yes, I do the writing and I love the business side. So you actually are the business side of getting that book out there.
Yes, as far as it relates to promoting the author and their work, because especially, we work with debut authors or self-published. So the debut authors would be someone that actually has gotten a deal with one of the major houses, but this is their first book coming out. So again, will be new to the author space. It's just that a company like a HarperCollins or a Simon & Schuster is actually the ones producing their book. And then self-published authors, folks who are doing it themselves. So once the book is complete, we work with those authors to basically promote them. So help raise their platform, get signing opportunities when available. Because, again, when you're self-published, a person can't readily go to Barnes & Noble and find your book.
Correct.
So if your books are only in your living room, how do people even know that you exist? So as a publicist, I try my best to come up with cool and creative ideas and opportunities to expand the author's reach. A lot of times, in the industry, we call it building their platform. So it's basically making the public aware of who they are, what their personal and professional connections are, and then helping authors figure out how they can best communicate and find their readership. And then once you found your readership, your book doesn't necessarily need to be in a bookstore. Once you found them and you have a website and your book is on Amazon, they can purchase your book. So really it's helping the authors find their readership and promote that this is who they are and this is what their book is about.
Now, how challenging is that, given especially since we said in the first half an hour that there is a book out there for anything under the sun, and there are so many books out there. So for a new author to even get their name or their book out there, how much of a challenge, or is it a challenge, to do that?
It really is a challenge. A lot of my colleagues have asked, like, why do you continue to work with self-published authors? That's such a heavy lift. For me, I look at the process of putting a book out. So whether you self-publish or you get a deal, the fact that you sat down for God knows how many months, years, or hours and put a book together from beginning to end, whether it's written good, whether it's written well or bad, is secondary for me. The fact that you actually committed to something like that, I want to help people who have actually sat down and made that commitment. So at that point in time, yes, it's very difficult. Most people who get media attention have a level of fame behind them. So if you're self-published and, you and your husband are doing this publishing business out of your home or a satellite office, how do people find you? I know enough about how the industry works and how media works to come up with off-the-book page ideas. So like something like submitting for a client, I work with a Nigerian poet, and when oh gosh, what's the guy's name? Oh gosh, his name escapes me. But there was a great poet who passed away. So I basically have my client write an op-ed for a national publication about how that particular poet inspired her when she was a child to become the poet that she is today. So that allowed my client an opportunity to get into the conversation as everybody was paying homage to the Nigerian poet who passed away. So it's really challenging. Why should my client get that page space and not someone like a Terry McMillan? You know, and that's when it comes in me being a creative publicist and having relationships and pitching and saying my client can deliver something
Absolutely.
that your audience will be interested in.
Absolutely. And I know exactly, like you were talking about someone who's sat behind the word processor or whatever it is for months. What I share with folks, I know my listening audience is tired of hearing this, but I'm sorry, that's a cheap way for me to put a plug out. But the music that you're hearing in the background is my original CD. I have two musical CDs out, and I understand what it's like to try to get your name out there when you're a no-name.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very difficult because I still consider myself a no-name, even though the CDs have been on the market the last couple of years. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready to start my third project now. But I'm saying all that to say, anytime you've done a project that's, whether it's musical or whether it's written, there's a piece of you as a person that's coming out. So it's kind of like, in my particular case, whether I make money from the CD or not is not the main issue, and I would be great. But if I don't, it's still a part of my creativity and my artistry that's being shared with the world.
Yes.
For many authors, they feel that same way, and so for some, it's a side thing, and for others, that's their full-time job. But I can relate to what you're saying because there's a part of you that's coming out into the world that people are listening to or reading. And
yes.
that is special. That is something that's very hard to put in words, because one of the questions I always ask the author is, what was it like for you whenever, if the books were shipped to you or delivered to you or you had to go pick them up, what was it like for you the first time you picked up your final copy that's getting ready to go into the market and you see your byline on it, you see your name? What was that like? And they have the heart, and I understand, I know exactly, it's like giving birth to a child.
Absolutely.
It's, right.
Absolutely.
It's like all these different emotions. People say when they opened the box and picked up the book, they broke down crying. Other people said they just laughed. Other people said I couldn't believe it was them. So you're absolutely right. And now it's your task to now get their name out there.
Mm-hmm.
So what tips do you have, or I see here one of the questions, can you share 3 tips that will help self-published authors promote their books?
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. Whenever people say, like, oh, share, and then they give a limited number, I'm like, okay, only 3? Let's see. Let me dig into
Well,
my
I tell you
bag.
what, you choose the ones you want, however many you want to share.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so one of the things that I think is really important in, getting publicity for a person's book, or really, honestly, one of the words that we're actually reshaping now, because I learned in my experience as an agent that book publicity obviously requires there to be a book. But author platform is basically really about the author. So, it's really about who they are, their personal and professional connections, and then any opportunities that they've had with media, whether it be social media or being interviewed on TV, radio, or national publications. So a lot of times now what we're saying is that when it comes to self-published authors, before people can run out and have a desire to buy your book, whether it's in store or on Amazon, they need to know who you are. So as an agency, we work to help authors now build their platforms. So that can be anything from being a guest contributor on a successful website, so like having that author write an op-ed for Uptown Magazine, or we have a client, Kyra Campbell. She wrote an article. She's a Christian fiction author, and she wrote an article for Ebony about being celibate and still being in a relationship. So, again, she was a contributor to Ebony. So now readers of ebony.com had an opportunity to find out that Kyra existed and that her book, Not My Will, was available. So, doing guest contributions for websites, everyone should definitely have their own website and a blog. I think a blog is a really good opportunity for authors to share more of their writing outside of the book. a lot of times people are online and they have an opportunity to read an article. And if they continue to read what you write in articles and blogs, and they like your writing, and then they find out you have a book, by then they've already become a fan of your writing, of your style, of your voice. And then when they find out you have a book, it's just that they're getting a bigger slice of cake. So, so definitely having a blog and a website is important. Public speaking engagements. We have a young man who is a children's book author, and he has a 52 school tour set up. Him and his mother have set up a 52 school tour where he's basically going around saying what the process was like for him to write this book at such a young age, what it was like selling the book, having people say yes, they'll buy it, but also being rejected. And his message is basically, people always ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he was like, why do I have to wait to be great? I want to be an author now, and so he is. So that's his message to children, and literally he's doing a school tour, 52. So now his book is not even on Amazon. His book is not in any bookstores, but he has 52 schools set up across 3 different states where there's already an engaged audience, and he's moved 7,000 units already.
Wow.
So there definitely are opportunities, speaking engagements, websites, and, being able to write articles and share information to establish websites and magazines that are already existing and have an audience. Because the whole purpose of publicity is for you to get discovered.
Correct. Now, how big, because when you started your agency in 2004, even when I started the show in 2001, what have you, social media was not as big as it is now. And you've heard me each time we share information, I'm telling the audience to get on their social media sites and text somebody, tweet somebody to go to gobrave.org. How big has social media been a factor in what you do?
For me, well, you know what? It allows the authors themselves. We will help them come up and create the messaging as far as how they can best go about discussing and sharing their book on a social media platform. What I do like about social media is that a person could be home on a cold winter day in their pajamas and still engage readers worldwide. So at this point, social media for me, when it comes to social media and working with self-published authors, again, if I can't go into Barnes & Noble and buy your book because all of the books are in your living room, how can I engage with you? I'm not going to see you at a local bookstore because there are really no local bookstores. Borders is closed down. Barnes & Noble and Bookazine are the 2 major chains that are still around. And then so many African-American bookstores have closed down nationwide. So social media is a way for me to work with authors to say, okay, you can engage people in California and live in New Jersey via social media. And now the person that likes your work and they're engaging you on social media, they are your promo team in California.
Correct.
Because then they can tell a friend and tell a friend. Maybe they may see an opportunity on the ground in California. A new bookstore is opening up or a certain event is taking place. And then they can say, oh, I love your book, and there's actually going to be an expo here in California. Here's the information. So you can communicate from the comforts of your home with everyone nationwide about your book. And the thing is, social media is free.
That's correct.
So I tell all clients, before you even hire a publicist, have your social media platform set up.
That's right.
We'll help you come up with what you need to tweet about, what type of things you should post up on Facebook, but you should have them because that's a way for anyone to engage worldwide at no charge. I mean,
this is true.
Any simpler than that.
I could not agree with you more, and I've shared this story as well. I remember one of the first ones was MySpace, and I just thought that was for kids. And then whenever Facebook and all of them came out, I still had kind of this jaded view, like, I don't see the sense in that. That's for kids, this, that, and the other. But one day, kind of like the light bulb went off. Like, wait a minute, I can promote through this. And that's whenever even this show took off and went to another level in terms of the guests I was able to get. Because what I found that's really fun with social media is that regardless of how famous you are or are not, folks respond to social media. I mean, I had everybody from Judge Hatchett. I've had Newt Gingrich's daughter on here. I've had Martin Luther King's niece on here. I've had from the no name to the big name. I've had I'm Nikki Giovanni on here. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to get Teri at some point to come on. But I've had local authors, I've had national authors, international authors. I've had Dennis Kimbrough on here. I mean, the list is long and varied in terms of stature, where they are in status wise, whether they're famous or not famous. But all of that I was able to do that because of social media. Because folks respond to Facebook, they respond to LinkedIn, they respond to, I mean, I remember as a kid writing, like, as we call it now, snail mail, but writing hard copy letters to, like, Yankees or whoever my favorite sports team was and never getting a response back.
Exactly. Now with social media, you could just put that @ symbol in front.
That's right.
And watch and see what happens.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Folks, I mean, whether they're on TV, movies, athletes, entertainers, singers, authors, they respond to the social media. Sometimes, I'll go to my Twitter site or whatever, and I'll see someone else responding, and I'm kind of like blown away, like, wow. Yeah. Someone I just saw on television just responded to me back on Twitter. But it really has played a role. Now, I was doing my research on you, and I was a reader as a kid. I'm still a reader, an avid reader. And one of the things I always saw my father reading whenever he would come home from work was Ebony magazine. So whenever I looked up your name and I saw that you were in Ebony for having one of the coolest jobs, my mind immediately went back to when I was a child, seeing my father up in the living room reading Ebony. Ebony has been around like forever.
Yes.
What was that like for you in terms of now being interviewed by and appearing in Ebony for having one of the coolest jobs?
Oh my goodness, it was really fun. They have, so Ebony, with most national publications, they have the print side and then they have the digital side. So the digital being the website. So I have a colleague, and again, I'm always pitching clients. And, and then I have colleagues who say, well, Dawn, you have a wealth of information to give. You should do some interviews. And I was thinking to myself, okay, so in thinking about pitching a client, because she's an author and that would be a cool job, I looked at what else they had, and I was like, you know what? Wait a minute. I know people who do PR work, but I don't really know too many who are literary agents and publicists.
Right.
And, in the industry of book publishing. So it was a way to basically let readers of Ebony know that there are people of color that work in this particular industry, and then just for them to see a little bit about what a publicist does versus what a literary agent does. So I just thought just the fact that I had the combination of two as a career in this multi-billion-dollar industry would be a good take as far as different types of careers. And then again, you think about students and when they're growing up saying, what do they want to be? There's a young lady or a young man who loves to read books right now, but they have no idea all of the different career opportunities within book publishing. Most of them are thinking, okay, I have to be an author. You don't necessarily have to ever write a book, but you can still work with authors.
Correct.
And here are two ways. You can either be a book publicist or you could be a literary agent. So that's the type of information that I wanted to convey when I did the Cool Jobs interview for Ebony.
Now, in terms of starting your own business, just talking, I have a business that's been rolling around in my head for a little while now. I've just never had the moxie to just go ahead and get it going. So I like the way you said, like, whenever you were finishing up working with Teri, or either you kind of just stepped out there on your own to become an entrepreneur. Talk a little bit about, what advice do you give folks that, like me, who are sitting on an idea, because I know what I know what I want to do. I just need to know it. I can just jump out there and go do it. Talk to me about how did you just jump out there and start your agency?
Oh gosh, it was a frightening jump. Again, like I said, at the beginning of the interview, that I definitely believe that my working in publishing has been through divine direction. Working with Teri and seeing how she built this company and she had a product and, she was able to hire me and we had assistants, and just seeing someone run their own company and me being of service to them, I learned a lot, and it also gave me a level of confidence in what I brought to the table. And, when I actually looked at it and said, okay, if I do for her, I do the same work for at least two other authors, that would afford me the opportunity to do this work from home and still make the same amount of money, but be working for myself and not necessarily have to come in to someone's office.
Right.
That was my initial mindset in saying, okay, ABC Simple, can you actually do this? And at that point it was a numbers game. I felt confident in the connections and relationships that I had. Everyone, knew who I was, and they appreciated my work. So, a lot of times when you start a business, again, the same how we tell authors they have to find their readers. I knew who my audience was going to be. I knew who my customer or potential clients could be. It was going to be other authors, and at the start, it was other urban fiction authors because I already had the experience and reputation in working with one of the best in that particular genre. So for me, it was really about saying, if you're going to do this, what do you already have in place? I had the audience, I had the skill, and I even had a little bit of resume and connections to back me up. So, it was definitely a scary journey because it's nothing like the security of knowing that every Friday or every other Friday there's a check waiting for you, whether you take sick days or vacation days, there's going to be something. But to me, I really feel like this was the thing that I was supposed to be doing at that time.
Right.
And here I am 10 years later. I have no doubt in my mind that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, so, I'm confident. I constantly pray. It is definitely a faith move. But, I look at it and say, people always ask, well, how do you define success?
Right.
For me, I define it as I'm helping others make their dreams come true.
Right.
So anyone who's an author has always had a desire to write a book.
Right.
And I'm just basically lending my services to help them see their dreams come to fruition without compromising myself and my personal integrity as a professional. So to me, that's success.
I
because
applaud you
someone else.
for taking the leap and being able to follow your passion.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, I've done that a couple of times. I've done at least one major career change. I went out of corporate America into education. And I know what my next move is going to be. It's going to be something entrepreneurish, and it's going to be, again, in one of my passions, which is going to be a combination of teaching and business. It's going to be the combination of both, with which I wound up traveling the country doing workshops and facilitating groups, or either coaching and public speaking or something along those lines. That's where I'm saying when there's an ideal in my head of where I'm going when I'm done being the principal of a school.
Got you.
Because people always ask me, well, do you want to move up to superintendent? No, I'm not interested in that. I say, I know the next place where I'm going after this will probably be starting out on my own, probably be doing something along the lines of teaching adults around the country, workshop facilitation, this, that, and the other. It's just a matter of putting it together.
I really believe that for anyone looking to be an entrepreneur, it has to be in their heart.
Right.
Because it's easy when everything is going well and the checks are clearing and you're getting yeses and it's just a smooth ride. But it's when you hit that turbulence, that's when it has to really be in your heart for you to just bear down and continue on. So many times, in the decade, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just get a job. I can get a job right now as a publicist working for one of the major publishing companies. I would still get to do PR. I would still get to work with authors, but the check would be secure. But then I would also be limited in who I could be able to reach out to, because at that point in time, my responsibility would be to the publisher that I'm working for and their authors. So for me, being an entrepreneur allows me to cast a wider net. I am the boss, so I can take those executive meetings as opposed to assisting someone else in setting up the executive meetings. So that level of control over my own destiny is something that I've come to love, and that's something I don't think I ever want to relinquish.
I can understand that.
It's in the heart. It's really in the heart. Entrepreneurship is really, really in the heart.
We are down to the last couple of minutes of the interview, and at this point, when I have an author on the air, I always give them the opportunity to promote as much as they want in terms of their book, in terms of how to get in contact with them, and they can promote anything but the price, anything but the dollar amount. And so I'm going to offer you that same opportunity in terms of your agency and your services, of how folks can get in touch with you if they need a literary agency or a publicist. How could they get in touch with Dawn Michelle Hardy? And it's Dream. What's the name? Is Dream
Relations.
Dreams Relations.
Dream,
there you go.
Mm-hmm. So Dream actually is an acronym. It stands for Divine Relationships in Entertainment and Media. So that's why I was saying that my career has been divine direction. Right? God chooses the clients, and He and I discuss it, and so it goes. But folks can reach out on Twitter at Dream Relations, on Facebook, same thing, Dream Relations PR and Literary Consulting Agency. And then I'm also on Instagram as dream_girl_4. 14. And in the top of 2015, I'm going to be doing a campaign, which is going to be called Author Platform 365, and that's going to be a hashtag. So hashtag Author Platform 365. And each day of the year, for the entire year of 2015, I'm going to give one tip a day on how authors can build their platform, whether it's before the book comes out or even after the book comes out, because that's really what all authors need, is to build their platform. Building a platform will make the publicity easier.
All right. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Now, is Hardy your maiden name or married name?
Oh, Hardy is my maiden name.
Okay.
I like the sound of using my entire name.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking because my grandmother, my mother's mother, her maiden name was Hardy. She was a Hardy. They're from North Carolina. And
oh, wow.
So
okay.
whenever she got married, she was a Bernard, and then when my mother married, she was a Medley. But my roots are with the name Hardy. So somewhere along the line, we actually may be related. If I go into Ancestry.com, you never know.
This is very true. Oh, no, Mark, I was telling my authors, I'm like, don't forget to say your website. So on all social media platforms, a person can find me at Dream Relations, and then the website is dreamrelations.com.
All right, dreamrelations.com, and the Instagram was dream_girl_14.
14, yes.
I'll have to look you. I'll have to follow you on Instagram. Then I'll get you on my Instagram site as well. So I've been fascinated, and I love your energy, particularly for this time of the morning.
You.
And really in terms of what you do and publicizing the books. And this I'll offer out to you as well. Any authors you want to come through here through the reading circle, it's just a matter of you sending me an email, and we'll get them scheduled.
Oh, Mark, thank you so much. You know I'm going to take you up on it.
Yes, please do, because that's how I get my guests. I mean, this whole networking thing works for me. The social media, the networking, the contacts, the connections, that works. So any of your authors that you want to run through the reading circle, I'm doing my 2015 calendar now. It's just you can give me a list for that matter, and we'll schedule the dates.
Oh, that's so awesome. I totally will follow up with you on that.
Okay, good. Well, with that being said, have a wonderful day and a wonderful holiday season, a great Christmas and Kwanzaa and New Year's and everything. And I know we'll be in touch because you almost going to be like a supplier. I have what you need, you have what I need. We can.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. Mark, enjoy your holiday and stay warm because it's like 31 degrees right now.
Exactly. Well, you do the same, and we will certainly be in touch.
All right. God bless you.
God bless as well. Take care now.